I would love for you to share what do you do, how do you help your clients, and a brief introduction about your work.
Sure. So I'm an immigration attorney based out of Naperville, Illinois. I also have a satellite office in Schaumburg, Illinois. Immigration is federal law.
Start with is that why did you choose to be an entrepreneur?
I am a lawyer by profession, and had the freedom to start their own business. And
What would be that one advice that they should take home today as a female who's passionate about being an entrepreneur?
I'll give you my top three. Okay. And it starts with what I said earlier, be bold. Okay. The second thing is, don't give up.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Female Founders. The highlight of this podcast is to bring you women stories who have been doing exceptionally well as business owners. And today I have with me Shobana Kasturi, who's the founder of Kasturi Law. Hi, Shobana. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Manmeet. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for doing this.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
Yes, though we have a time to dwell into her story, but a little about her. She has been living in the US since the 80s, an exceptional attorney, invested in the client, bringing them results. And today I want to understand what does it take to build a US, not only in India. Today I want to understand what it takes to build a business. We learn how to do it in India, but today I want to understand what it takes to build a business in US and how to do it exceptionally well. So please help me welcome her and let's get started.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So the first question that I mostly start with is that why did you choose to be an entrepreneur?
I am a lawyer by profession, and I did work as a guardian ad litem, and then I worked for various firms. But I had an opportunity, several years ago to start my own business. And I come from a family where I have family members who have started their own businesses, had the freedom to start their own business, and the joy and the freedom it brought them is something I saw. And I wanted that freedom. It was scary, but it's the best thing that I've done.
Right. I love it when you say it is scary because entrepreneurship is scary. A lot of people decide to become entrepreneurs looking at the freedom and money that it offers. But when I got into it, I understood it's exactly the opposite. So I would love for you to, share with us when you say it is scary, what is that one thing that scares you the most? And was it before you jumped into it? Or was it after you jump into it, you realize that, oh my God, it's scary?
Even though I have family members who have had their own businesses, it was scary when I started. It was scary, as the process. And scary, I think, is good because it's a motivator, right? You
Right.
want to value you want to understand that it's not a slam dunk. It's not always going to work. So you want to be scared. You want to work hard. You want to think that the last client that walked in may be your last, even if that's not the case, right? Because you build your business. You never want to take anything for granted. So I think that scary is a good scary. You should be scared because that's a motivator to work harder and never take anything for granted. Even today, I don't take anything for granted. And I like that scary. It's a good scary.
Absolutely, 100%. I agree. A little bit of anxiety and a little bit of scary there helps you move forward, as you said.
Yes.
I'd love to understand that, and this scary also comes in when you're transitioning from working to becoming a business owner now. How was that phase? How did you transition from quitting your job and deciding to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So when I decided to start my own practice, I love coming back to the word scary. It was scary, but the transition was tumultuous in the sense that I realized that I was wearing all the hats, right? You
Yeah.
are, as a professional, the lawyer, you are the marketer, you are setting up the business, you are in charge of admin. Um, you know, it's everything. If you're
Right.
hiring, then you're in charge of hiring. And so there's a lot of, hats you have to wear, and you get all the glory, but you also get all the burden. So that's what you have to be comfortable for. But the huge gain there is freedom to, in my case, to take the cases I wanted to, freedom to run the
Right.
practice how I wanted to. My vision of my practice was to have a firm where people were not just numbers, that I knew the cases, and I was vested in it, and I could talk to my clients. To me, those things mattered, and they still do. So, you weigh that level of freedom versus all these other stresses or hats you have to wear. And in the end, that freedom always wins. And so that's how I see it.
Right. 100%. I would, like to add to this, and this might feel like a little diversion, but what I'm trying to put forward is when you say the freedom of choice to make a decision, that is also when a lot of people say that, you're a startup, why don't you look for equity sharing? Why don't you look for funding? And I think that is primarily the reason, is because you don't want to give the freedom of choice for someone else to make a decision, is because businesses start out of producing solutions for people who have problems, and you can help them out in their problems. And similarly, when you get into a business as an entrepreneur, now it is your choice that which cases you should be invested in, like in your case, which are the cases that you would want to take forward. Whereas what I understand, in a job, as much as you would like to go ahead and help someone, it is under the rules of the organization that you're associated with. So that's also the kind of freedom that people look forward to.
Yeah, and freedom to be your own boss. If
Yeah,
I need to take time off in the morning for a personal reason, I can. It doesn't mean I
right.
work, less, but I have the flexibility to decide how my time during the day is spent. And that's a freedom that no amount of money, you can't put. It's with above value, right? It has so much value that there is no value you can put on it.
100%. I 100% agree to that. I would also want to ask one question, which I'm sure would really help the audience understand. When you were transitioning from the job to business, I'm sure you would have already built out of the experience in the number of years that you have. But when someone is transitioning from a job to a business, funds is something that is very crucial, because now you're going from maybe whatever you're making to a zero, because it's a new business and you're starting out completely. Was there any kind of a framework or a plan that you put across the table to be able to transition that, or any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I mean, I had obviously when you start out with your savings, and you have certain goals about how many cases at a minimum you need to bring in to meet your rent, your, phone bills, your administrative costs if you have employees. So I had those goals initially set up. I was conservative in my approach in terms of where I rented, the rent I was willing to pay. Um, but luckily for me, after the first month, I didn't have to look back. Cases came, I was hired. It was easier. One area that I think I would have done more is being willing to take more risks to expand faster. Um, but as a new business, you're always worried about that bottom line, making sure you have enough money, making sure you don't have to necessarily dip into your savings, because that's not why you're in business. Um,
Right.
but it's that, you have to be bold. I would tell people, be bold, but be cautiously bold. Make educated decisions, but you have to be bold.
Yes, yes, I agree to that. Bold business. Absolutely love that term. I would also want to ask, you mentioned that you got clients in the first month itself, and that is a huge win for anyone who's starting out business, because getting that first client is a milestone that, yes, now we've kick-started. Would you like to share your journey of getting that first client, and how did you get that first client?
Yeah, I mean, so, before I started, I had done some research on some basic advertising and for attorneys, and that is something that I had already put in place before I sort of opened my doors. And that basic advertising is a mechanism by which people found me. And initially, when I started my practice, which is now has been based out of Naperville, Illinois, to be frank, there weren't that many competitors, so that helped a lot also. And then, of course, when I started getting clients, then it was word of mouth, referrals. And
Yeah.
if you do good work, then you get more work. I mean, that's what I believe in. So that's how I built the practice.
Right, 100%. I absolutely agree to you that if you do the good work, good people come to you, and the discussion of the good work carries on, and then it goes to other people. So 100%, if you put the quality on the table, it has to go forward, and there
Yeah.
is no doubt about that. Yeah. I would love to understand what would be the number one challenge in terms of the first year of operations of your business, because it is said that if you're able to sustain your business for the first 2 years, then you can, handle any kind of challenges. So, what was that number one challenge in the first year of your business where you felt, okay, I need to get this done, like I need to handle this?
I think one of the biggest challenges that most businesses have is marketing, right? Marketing to
Yeah,
get more clients. So for me, it was trying to figure out how much my spend has to be, outside of course, referrals, which is word of mouth,
right,
but how much my spend has to be to get the number of clients I want, and for the cases I want, that not only pay my bills, but can pay my salary and can give me the profitability that I need. And that's a very delicate balance, because marketing is not like a zero sum game. You do have to experiment. Some things work, some things don't work, some areas work, some areas don't work. And that was the biggest challenge. And to be honest, even now, it is a challenge because marketing is not an exact science. But if you can fine tune it and get the magic sauce or get too close to it, that's when things really become easier, I think.
right, 100%. Because the word has to go out there, and the numbers have to speak for itself. So, marketing 100% is one of the biggest challenges that every business owner would face in their business. I completely agree on that. Yeah. And how many years it has been that you have been running your own practice?
So the practice has been going on since 2014, but to be honest, it's really full fledged. I was doing a lot of the groundwork initially, more starting in 2015, and then of course I haven't looked back since then.
Right. But that's close to 10 to 11 years of running your own business.
Yeah, it's 10 years, and end of this year, by 10 years it'll be 10 years. Yeah.
If you were to go back today to, advise yourself one thing when you started 10 years before, what would be that one thing you would advise yourself? Considering that you already know your journey now.
Yeah. I think I go back to what I said earlier: be bolder, be bold,
Right,
be willing to take more calculated risks. And that's a tough lesson. And sometimes it takes longer to learn that. But that's what I would tell myself.
right. That's a beautiful one. And it pops up a question in my head when you said that those are the lessons we learn. I'm sure through your journey in the last 10 years, there would have been people, or there would have been clients or learnings where you might have, learned something from a particular person through a bad clientele relationship, or something that might have taught you something in the business. Would you like to share an experience where you maybe experienced something bad in the business and you learned something out of it?
I've been lucky with clients. My clients have been really, for the most part, been really, really good. And I think that is because I treat people with respect as best as I can. But, one or two experiences where maybe people made appointments or made commitments in terms of engaging me and then backed out. I learned that that's part of the process, right? There is going to be clientele that start to initiate the process to engage and then disengage, and you have
Right,
to be okay with it, and you have to move on. You can't let the small stuff, you can't sweat the small stuff. And
right,
you have to stay positive, right? This is
right,
very, very important. So if one case where someone didn't engage you and you thought, okay, you have the book of business, but for whatever reason it didn't work out, move on. Don't dwell. Don't dwell, move on, because there's going to be another client who's going to recognize your value and hire you. That's exactly what has happened. It's a tough lesson, and it sometimes hurts if you're really vested in helping people, but you can't, it's not a personal thing. It's just life. So that's what I would say.
Right. Exactly. Some situations are completely out of control, and all you can do is just learn from it and move on, just like you said. Yeah. A very curious thing I would want to know, you just mentioned that, you have to stay positive, and I understand being a business owner, it comes with a level of stress every morning when you get up and every night when you sleep. The intensity might be low or high, but the level of stress is there. Is there anything you do consciously to manage that stress so that it doesn't affect you in your personal life?
Yeah, I actually do. I started this a while ago. I'll usually go and read or find comical, you know, funny, like look at a cartoon, look at something positive,
Right.
or I will look at quote of the day or tip of the day, like there was a tip of the day that I looked at where it said, if one door, I'm paraphrasing here, but if one door closes, open it again,
Another.
doors are open, something like that, whatever it was. But I really try to focus on that every day. And uh, that makes a huge difference. Like, thinking positively every day is not easy. There are challenges and challenging cases, but
Right.
you got to try to be positive. And um, also, I think you have to have a good support system. I'm lucky because I have now colleagues in the immigration field that are my friends who I can turn to. I have a network of friends. And if you're having a bad day, you can ping someone, you can call someone, you can email someone, whatever the case is. And that support system has been very, very important for me.
Yes, yes. I think, I relate to it on so many levels. First, when you said that one moment of relief is required so many times. So, this is what I do whenever I feel a lot stressed. I switch on and I watch an episode of Friends, and
Yeah,
then I'm sorted. So, that's
yeah.
exactly when you said that you watch some kind of a cartoon or some kind of comical thing, which, makes you feel a little bit lighter. And the support system that you mentioned, which is your community that which is in the same field as you. One support system is of course our family, then the second who can have the same kind of atmosphere environment work wise, so that it can help you with the answers that you're looking for, because as you grow, as you evolve, there's always a learning that goes with you across the time.
And I really
Yeah.
try, because I'm in the immigration field and I am helping people, and I do believe that I'm changing lives, helping someone stay in the United States, reuniting families. I always try to remember, you know, the clients who walk in my door who have significantly bigger problems than I do, unfortunately. And put everything in perspective. Like, look, you're actually making a difference, and you may be having a bad day, but you're making a difference. You just help someone get a green card, or you just help someone naturalize, or whatever the case is, right? It's a game changer. You just have to do that. And one of the first things I do when I go into my office, almost every, whenever that is, I make a list of to do things, right?
Right.
Like the first thing I do, I handwrite it. This is just the thing I do. And as my day is going through, I check it off. And every time I check it off, I feel great because I'm like one less thing to do,
Yes.
you know? And I may have 25 things and I may not get to it everything by the end of the day, but if 85%, 90% is done, it's a feeling of accomplishment. So
Right.
as the day progresses for me, that check mark goes through. I'm like, yeah, it's a win. So that's my way of doing things.
Yes, I so relate to it. This is something I've learned from my mom. I can actually show it. I've just started my day. It's morning here. So you
Yeah.
can see I have this with everything written, and I
Yeah.
would tick it. And then every tick makes you feel, oh my God, I've done this. Okay, things are done. And I could, sense it in your voice as well while you were speaking, that what is the sense of accomplishment and the joy it comes to you when you just do that one tick. No matter
Yes.
how small or bigger the task is, you get that feeling, okay, I've done it. And
Yeah.
that's what keeps you going. The question would be that what was the learning that helped you build these boundaries, and how does these boundaries help you?
So, as lawyers, we can't really talk much about fees and stuff, but I can tell you this, that when I do a case, it's based on scope of work, right? Experience. And scope of work means number of hours. In my practice, all the fees are flat fees, but it is based on scope of work and my level of experience. Um,
Right.
and so that's how I, provide the services. And I think with any service you provide, you have to be honest, transparent, and upfront with this, with the prospective client, so they know the value. And maybe sometimes it's not a fit, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that you did something wrong or the client did something wrong. It's just not a good fit. And that's okay. That's just how I see it.
Right. And also, has this, experience of building the boundary come out of the fact that sometimes people might, just want to leverage if you have enough to give. Like if we keep giving, people
Mhm.
try to leverage our time and efforts, even though they don't value it. We have that value in mind, but people don't value it. Have you had this kind of an experience or a learning in your business with people?
Yeah, I mean, I think by nature, I definitely want to help people, and I I try to help people. Like, even if I can't help someone else, say, look, I'll refer you to this person. I think that's the right
Right.
thing to do. But there's a balance. The way I look at
Yes.
it, when I come into the office or when I'm working, I have a million things to do. So I have to get through those
Right.
things. So
Right.
if I'm not able to get through those things and just doing a service, then I can't run a business. But
Right.
I'm always polite, and I'm always in the frame of mind of helping someone the best I can, but you have to set boundaries, and that's what it's about.
Right. Yes, 100%, 100%. Like you said that, you have to run a business, and to be able to do that, you need the resources, you need the time, and time is the biggest resource that we have as business owners.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I usually keep this question towards, the later part of the podcast, is because I want people to go through the journey, the story, what you've been through, look at the years of experience before we answer this question. When I do it earlier in the podcast, usually people do not go through the journey and the story. So I keep it towards the end. I would love for you to share, what do you do? How do you help your clients? And a brief introduction about your work.
Sure. So I'm an immigration attorney based out of Naperville, Illinois. I also have a satellite office in Schaumburg, Illinois. Immigration is federal law, so I am able to take cases across the country and even outside the U.S. My practice, though, primarily is based out of Illinois for immigration cases, and those cases involve green card, applications, naturalization applications, consular processing for non-immigrant, immigrant visas, um, responding to requests for evidence, responding to NOIDs, um, doing applications called the I-751. So immigration has a huge plethora of areas. I do a fraction of it by choice and design because I'm good at those things. And because I'm good, I enjoy doing those areas. Those are the areas. And of course, you can go to my website, kasturilaw.com, and it lays out all the other services that I provide.
Right. I would love to understand. I do know that you're a first generation immigrant yourself. Was that the reason of picking up immigration, particularly in law?
Definitely when I started my practice, that was one of my motivations because I have lived the journey. I came in on a green card, I naturalized, I've petitioned for a family member. So I've lived that journey. Most of my family members here are, they're all immigrants. So um, it's not very far from my day-to-day life. And it ties in to also me wanting to help people. I've always wanted to help people. That's the reason I went into law. So yeah, immigration is just a natural fit. Uh, I also wanted a practice where I really wanted to go into work every day. I enjoyed it. And I love what I do. Like, I don't go into the office any day thinking, oh, why am I here? Today I was in the office till past 8 p.m. and certainly wanted to get home. But at the same time, the work had to be done. And um, I was there and I was happily there. So there are times, a client will say, well, it's Saturday, it's 3 p.m. I'm sorry, you're here. And I'm like, no, it's all good, because I love what I'm doing. Yes, I want to go home. I want to go home to my family. I want to go home to doing other things, but you have to love what you do. And I do like what I do a lot. So that makes a huge difference.
Right. While you were saying, there was this marketing terminology coming to my mind, because usually we say that, in business, your mess becomes your message. So
Yeah.
here, I would not particularly say it was a mess, but having, gone through the journey yourself, having experienced it yourself, you become really passionate about it, is because you've been through the journey, and automatically you become relatable to the other person, because you can tell the person that, hey, I did it. Before you say I did it for A, B, or C, you say I did it, and that becomes the biggest testimony to them. So there's a huge concept of your mess becomes your message, and that is what I think clearly reflects in your journey as well.
Yeah, and when I take a case, I am empathetic. I've been there. I understand the anxiety of my clients. I understand if they need to talk to me on a Saturday night, even though it may not be really a big issue, or if they text me, 4 times a day. I get it, and it's
Right.
because I've been there. So, it's great that I can understand and appreciate it, and hopefully try to help others.
Right, 100%. I would, love to ask this question primarily because the audience that is going to be consuming this content or listening to this podcast is particularly females.
Mhm.
And being females, there's multiple roles that we play, just not as a business owner. I
Mhm.
do know that, you're a wife, you're a daughter, you're a mother as well. And there's so much to do with just two hands. So my question would be that what is your best framework balance out all the roles in your life, including that you're a business owner?
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's tough. And if anyone tells you it's not, it's just not being upfront about it, right? Um, I think you have to one, like what you do, because that makes a huge difference. When you are at work and away from family, it makes sense why you're away from your family.
Right.
Hopefully you have an understanding family too, which thankfully I do. So they can
Yeah.
give you that space because they know how passionate, how much I love what I do. That helps a lot. And I think something actually one of my colleagues today told me, and because they've known me for like 9 years or more, and they said, I see you spending more time for yourself. Like, I've found those efficiencies, and I see that because you're sharing that with me, where you're going, where you're doing more personal stuff. And I think you have to value your personal life. Um, you know,
Right.
you have to value it. And if you value your personal life, then the balance is easier. If all you're doing is working, 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 no matter how much you love your job, I think it's not as fulfilling. There has to be, it's not always a 50-50 split, but there has to be
Right.
as best a balance between the two. And I
Right.
wouldn't say I have figured it all out. Like, I'm like any other woman working. But I think what I figured out, the one thing I figured out is find what you like. And if you like it and love it, it's not work. Like, I don't, even if it's a difficult case, I do like my work, and it makes it so much easier. My clients tell me that all the time. They're like, you're sitting with us here and, it's 6:37, whatever. And you're good. You don't seem like you're rushing to get out the door, because
Right.
I like what I do. I am rushing to get out the door in my head because I want to go home, but I don't feel stressed about it.
Absolutely. And that comes from the feeling of being invested and happily doing what you do.
Yeah.
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 One of the questions that I usually ask everyone is that when we talk about the support system, when we talk about the family support system, one of the biggest supports anybody could have is their better half, is because we have the world to us, but the understanding between you and your partner much different as to so how what would you say is your partner's role in building the business and then building a personal life together, because it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to have someone who is definitely very supportive and understands the number of hours you have to put in. If you have to travel, if you have to go to conferences, um, they may not be involved in your business and on a day to day, but they have to be willing to hold up their end and more. Maybe if you have children, to help, uh, you know, be a little bit more involved with that while you're traveling or you're working. I think it's an integral part of any business's success, because without the support, especially if you have children or have family members you have to take care of, you can't balance it out then.
Right, right, 100%. That's, I would agree to that. Like you said a little bit earlier, it's not a 50-50. It is, a 60-40, 70-30 as to how you balance out the work and the business as two partners.
Mhm.
My last question would be that everyone who's listening to this podcast, if they have already started a business or they're about to start a business, and maybe the podcast would be a Kickstarter for them, what would be that one advice that they should take home today as a female who's passionate about being an entrepreneur, being a female founder?
I mean, I think there are many things. I would say, the top three. I'll give you my top three. Okay.
Okay.
Um, and it starts with what I said earlier. Be bold. Okay. The second thing is don't give up.
Yeah.
There are going to be times where you're like, okay, I don't even know why I'm doing this. Like, let me just go and get a 9 to 5 job. Don't give up. There is a path, um, but you have to push through. And the third thing that I would tell people is that never lose your drive, um, to work hard. Don't take clients for granted. Don't take success for granted. Don't take anything for granted. Your sweat equity built your business, and it will build it. But the moment you take things for granted is when things aren't going to be where you want it to be. So those would be my top three things.
Yes. Thank you so much. Those were very insightful. Though I said the last question, but exactly the last question is if people want to get in touch with you, they want to learn about you, maybe look at the scope of working with you, what is the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, they can go to my website at kasturilaw.com, and my phone number is there. My email address is there, and they can certainly email and call me, and they'll find me to be very responsive. Especially if anyone needs any immigration assistance, I'm happy to speak to them and see if I can be of assistance.
Yes, thank you so much. We will definitely put in your LinkedIn link as well in the description of the video so that people can get in touch with you on LinkedIn as well and your website. Thank you so much for sharing your story and such beautiful insights, which I'm sure are going to be valuable to anyone who listens to this podcast. Thank you so
Thank
much for your time.
thank you, Manmeet. Thank you for having me, and have a good rest of the day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.